Yesterday, we got the incredibly huge news that Overwatch League in 2022 will be played on Overwatch 2, or a very early version of Overwatch 2. But now we also know that the date for this is the 22nd of April. All right, guys, welcome to the channel. So what we're going to do here is speculate on the way Overwatch 2 is going to launch next year, because it is coming out next year. This is 100% certain, because if they're going to use an early version of the game in April next year, that would probably indicate they're looking to actually launch the game somewhere in the middle of next year, or maybe towards the end of next year. Now, before I go into this, I want you guys to hit the comments below and just tell me what you think. I want to hear your speculation. How do you think they're going to launch Overwatch 2? Now, I'll give you guys a couple of quick ideas. Maybe they do a closed beta or an open beta towards the end of this year. Maybe they show off PvP again towards the end of this year. Maybe they look to release the PvE elements as kind of DLC or downloadable mission packs instead of launching it as a full new game. Maybe that's their plan. Now, one thing is for sure, guys, this is incredibly risky, because what they're doing is putting all of their eggs in the sort of singular basket of Overwatch 2. If the game doesn't perform, now I honestly believe the game will perform. I know the devs there are incredibly talented, and I know that what they should be able to build will be a hell of a game. I mean, think of it. These guys haven't made any content for Overwatch, really, for the last, 3 years. I know that's a harsh thing to say, because, yeah, sure, we've had content, but, imagine what they would do if they had a bigger budget, if there was more people in the team, which is the case, right? When you compare it to Overwatch, because when Overwatch came out, the team was pretty small. Maybe the budgets wasn't as big at that time. Now, though, they know Overwatch is successful, so they've been heavily investing into it. They've increased the size of the team. So all of this should point towards getting an absolute avalanche of content, and really good content. But, yeah, actually, before we go on, I think I kind of glazed over the fact that the 22nd of April is the date of Overwatch League. This was confirmed by a guy called Mike Raphael, who is known as Hastro. He's the owner of Dallas Fuel, or of Envy. You guys may know of that esports organization. Yeah, he put the date on Twitter, so obviously he knows. Now, all of this is super weird to me, that this was actually announced through Overwatch League teams, and it was announced through various Overwatch League spokespeople talking to journalists. That's kind of really weird. You would think an announcement of this sort of gravity would come from Overwatch itself, so it is weird in that way. But I reckon what's happened is there's a bunch of pressure being put onto Blizzard and onto Overwatch and onto Overwatch League by the people that own the Overwatch League teams, saying, guys, what the hell is going on? When is Overwatch 2 coming out? Because I've no doubt a lot of these Overwatch League teams are suffering because they're not making as much money as they want to make, because frankly people are not as interested in Overwatch League as they were. Although a report did come out recently saying viewership has gone up for Overwatch League, which, I mean, maybe you can take that as a pinch of salt. Maybe it has gone up, maybe it hasn't. There are a lot more streams now. There's the sort of mainstream, and then there's the restream of the mainstream, and then all of that stuff. But hey, I guess that's a positive for Overwatch League. Still, Overwatch League owners no doubt have put pressure onto Blizzard, and Blizzard have caved and gone, okay, you will be playing on Overwatch League next year with an early version of Overwatch 2. Now, why is this incredibly worrying? The thing is here, right? Starting off Overwatch League on a very unfinished and early build of Overwatch 2 is super risky, and it might not be the best idea when you look at it from a sort of, well, it might be broke, or it might be unbalanced, it might be a total mess. But I think here's the key thing to think about. If they release an early version of the PvP at the same time they release a closed or open beta, think about Valorant. Think about Apex Legends, right, guys? I'm sure you remember I remember the way Valorant launched. I was part of that launch, where Valorant basically gave a lot of content creators access to the game, and you could stream it, and then through your stream, viewers would get drops to then enter the beta. Now, maybe that's what Blizzard are going to do. And hell, if I was Blizzard, I'd be totally ripping that off, because it works super well for Valorant. So think of it this way, right? Let's rewind a little bit. You release the beta of Overwatch 2, and it's the PvP beta, and then at the same time, you actually just start Overwatch League. So what you get is a ton of interest. You get a ton of people. You get YouTube content creators. You get streamers. Everybody starts making content on Overwatch 2 because it's new, because it's in beta. People are watching that content because they want to get keys to then get access to the content. And then you've also got, look at this, guys. There's an esport running as well. It's Overwatch League. Let's watch the best players try and work out how to play this brand new Overwatch 2 game. Because let's be under no illusion, this is completely radically different to Overwatch. It's 5v5, and the heroes are totally different, and there will no doubt be new heroes. So this brings us all the way back to the premise of this video, which is straight up, how the hell is Overwatch going to launch? or Overwatch 2 going to launch next year? And when will it launch? And what does the timeline look like? Well, if we look at it a very basic kind of way, what's the next event we get? Well, the next event is Halloween. But before that, we do know that there's going to be some sort of McCree storyline. So I reckon the next few weeks, we get a McCree kind of storyline. Well, maybe in the next week or so, we get Malavento goes to live. Then the next patch will probably be something to do with Overwatch League finals, right? There'll be some sort of Overwatch League finals skin, yada, yada, yada. Then the next thing we'll get probably will be Halloween. And then after that, maybe we get a McCree mini event, mission story of what do they even call it? Challenge event, that's it. Maybe we get a McCree version of that because they want to change the name of McCree, and that's when they hit that beat. And then after that, we get Winter Wonderland, and then after that, we get Lunar New Year, and then we get the beta for Overwatch 2. Maybe that's what they do, because that would line up with going into February, April time, and maybe you would have the beta a few months before the actual start of the Overwatch League, because you couldn't just go, right guys, it's all live now on the 22nd of April, go in and find out. Nah, those teams need to practice on it. So maybe we see, and I honestly think this is what's happening in my head, I see this as the clearest way forward, is they move into February with the open or a closed or an open beta or some sort of beta version of the PvP of Overwatch 2. That gives the Overwatch League teams a couple of weeks, a month, maybe a little bit more. Well, that would give them like 8 weeks or so to prepare for Overwatch League beginning on the 22nd of April. And I honestly believe that's what they're going to do. Now, there could be different ways of doing this, right? And there is also a little bit of, I guess, something I missed out there. We're expecting Blizzard to talk about Overwatch 2 again towards the end of this year. And we're expecting them to talk about the PvE. So we've had PvP earlier on in the year, and we're expecting some sort of discussion about PvE at some point this year. Now, if that happens, maybe that does happen in November. Maybe that happens instead of the McCree stuff, or the McCree stuff happens a little bit before that. But what if in November, when they're talking about that, they go, you know what, guys? We're also going into open beta, and they give you dates for that. And maybe it's a little bit earlier. So a lot of this, if we again like circle all the way back, a lot of this can kind of link up to how Overwatch 2 will actually be sold as a game. Will it be a game that you buy and you just get access to everything? Or will the PvP go free to play, and then will they sell you adventure packs in the form of Overwatch 2 missions? Will there be an Overwatch 2 version, which might be your $40, $50 game, and that includes 5, 6, 7 missions, and obviously all of the new content, but everybody gets all of the new content. If the announcement back in 2019 of the way Overwatch 2 is going to play with Overwatch is true, which is essentially, if you own Overwatch right now, you can still play Overwatch 2 PvP with all the new heroes and that new content in PvP, but you cannot play PvE, so you won't be able to play any of the PvE content, which, as far as we're concerned right now, is hero missions and story missions. So you wouldn't get that in the game, which would also mean you wouldn't get access to things like the talents for the heroes and the progression systems for the heroes. But of course, that's if they go down that route of monetization of the game. We still don't know how this game is going to be monetized. What they might do, and the reason again I'm thinking about this, is again pressure from Overwatch League teams. Overwatch League teams, 100%, like, I don't think any one of the teams would say they don't want Overwatch PvP to go free to play, because they want more people playing Overwatch, because more people playing means more people watching the esport. It's like simple logistics, right? You've got more players, there's more people to watch the esports, so the esports teams have got more people to sell jerseys to. And I think very simply, that's probably the easiest way of looking at this. So is the pressure there enough to force the Overwatch teams to go, you know what, we're going to go play, free to play with PvP? There are a lot of concerns with going free to play. The main concern is hacking. Look at the state of Warzone. That game, for a lot of the time, is straight up unplayable. It's a nightmare. I don't play a lot of Warzone, right? But I've played a lot of Apex, and I've seen hackers in Apex. Not all the time, but I've seen them every now and again. This is what happens when your game goes free to play. Now, there are ways around this. You can do things like competitive becomes something that you have to pay to get access to. Maybe it's a one-off fee. Maybe it's some sort of downloadable pack or whatever. But again, then you start going into the whole thing of, well, if I own Overwatch already, I don't want to now pay again to then get access to Overwatch 2 PvP. So there's a lot of things we can look at. But what I wanted to try and do in this video, guys, is just look at the state of Overwatch 2's launch and speculate on the way this is going to launch, because we do know 100% fact that the 22nd of April is the start of Overwatch League Season 5, and that is being played on an early version of Overwatch 2. The key there is early. That means it isn't finished That means there's going to be a beta active at that time. It means there will be a beta active before that time. They will not go live with Overwatch League Season 5 without a beta being playable, because the pros need to play on that beta. Now, there might be a case where they just give it to the pros. They just go, you know what? The pros just get access to it and nobody else does. I can't see that happening in a million years. I think what they'll do is start rolling out a beta, and it'll be in phases. I think what they will do is they probably won't show us PvE in a beta, because simply that content needs to remain locked up for when it actually launches, because you don't want to be able to play through PvE stuff, especially the story missions. The whole game is spoiled before you even get access to whatever way they decide to launch the game. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is the idea of keeping content flowing. Now, this has been a massive problem for Blizzard, especially with Overwatch, for a long time. Now, we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes. Well, we do know a lot now what's gone on behind the scenes at Blizzard, but not specifically for the Overwatch League team. Why is it taking so long for Overwatch 2 to come to market? Why did they suddenly stop content for Overwatch when they could have kept content coming and carried on working on Overwatch 2? What was going on there? There's probably a lot of internal conflicts, discussions, and all that stuff. So maybe the game was cancelled, maybe then it got rebooted. Who even knows what happened? But they need to not release a game that doesn't have constant updates. This, again, is another pillar of esports viewership, if that's what they care about. You need to have your base game constantly updated so people play it, so you've got more people that are interested, you've got more people that are watching esport, right? It's simple. It's so simple. Overwatch has done really well the last few years based on the interest it manages to maintain off the size of, well, okay, well, I'm not going to say the size of player base, but over the active nature of the player base, it's just not as active as it was. I'm not as active as I was as a player, right? A lot of you guys are not as active as you was as a player. But when new stuff comes out, you definitely want to check it out. So, what happens if they release PvP? It does go free to play, but then they start dropping PvE content periodically, so we don't get a large bulk of, like, here's the expansion, well, here's Overwatch 2, and it's all of this content, off you go. Instead, they go, here's a story mission, and then here's another story mission, and then each mission maybe ends on a cliffhanger and you're waiting for the next episode, kind of like watching your favorite series on Netflix, but this time you get to play through them. Maybe they do that to keep you interested. Oh, and wait, here's a hero, here's another hero, here's a hero, because I'm hoping they've got is a bank of content that they can start using and then keep producing new content as that content is almost being sort of plugged into the game. Now, maybe a completely ludicrous way of looking at this is just wishing for the best. So they launch Overwatch 2 with everything. So when it hits, right, maybe it does hit in sort of, well, it won't hit in April because we know that's going to be an early version of Overwatch 2. But maybe, let's say May, it launches, right? Or June or something like that. And when the game launches, it launches with everything. There's 6, 7 new heroes. There's loads of new maps. There's tons of story missions. And then guess what? A few months later, maybe 2 months later after the initial launch blast, a new hero comes out, a new story mission, and then we're basically getting new seasonal events, new story missions, all of that. Can you imagine how insane that would be? If they did that, I would lose my mind. But I think that's maybe wishful thinking. Like, because at this point, I'll take anything in terms of content. But let me know, guys, what you think about this in the comments below. I want you to tell me how you think they will launch Overwatch 2 based on the fact we know 100% for certain that they are launching an early version of the game for Overwatch League to play on in April of next year. Well, in fact, the 22nd of April next year. It's very risky, but maybe it'll pay off. All right, guys, thank you for watching the video, and I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. Toodaloo.